here. I'm here. I'm here.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you at this time to the August meeting of the Health and Human Services Committee. At this time, is there any additions, deletions to the July's meeting's minutes, corrections? And seeing none, we'll accept them as presented. Is there anyone wishing to seek the privilege of the floor for the committee? Seeing none, we will close that, and we'll go on to resolutions.
First resolution this evening is authorized an agreement with New York State Department of Education, approved agency for the provision of special education services for preschool children with disabilities.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Can I move that to the floor, please, Mr.
Okay.
Hamline?
My apologies. Coming off the bench here, Mr. Maxson, thank you for being, had that one a little backwards, but thank you for noticing. Can I have a motion, please? Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Ferris, discussion. Oh, sure, no. All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Next, authorized an agreement with provision of related services in connection with the program for preschool children with disabilities.
Motion, please. Mr. Ferris, second. Mr. Maxson, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Third resolution this evening is authorized an agreement with Samaritan Medical Center for participation with low-income drug discount benefits through Section 34OB of the Public Health Service Act.
Motion, Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Second, Mr. Ferris. Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. We have some informational in the packet there for the Health and Human Services Committee. Anything else to be brought before the committee? No? Seeing none? Motion to adjourn? Mr. Ferris, Mrs. Patrick, if someone wants to let Mr. Peck know how efficiently this committee ran tonight, feel free to do so.
Thank you, sir. A lot of stand-ins tonight. Welcome, everybody. I'd like to bring the August Finance and Rules meeting to order. Before we actually get started in the resolutions stuff, we're going to have a presentation by Luke Malecki. Hope I said that right. Malecki, sorry. Who's the auditor on audit of our 2018 finances.
Thanks. My name is Luke Malecki. I was the engagement partner on your audit this year. We performed the external audit through the month of May and are wrapping up and concluding. We actually issued the report today, and you should be getting the hard copies over the next week or so. I did meet with management last week, and then or the week before, and then we met with the audit committee previous to this at length. This is just a quick summary for the finance and rules, just to kind of go over some brief quantitative items and first touch upon the products of our audit. Foremost, the reason we're hired is to form a professional independent opinion on your financial statements, really to gain reasonable assurance that an outside party can rely on the numbers as they're presented. They are the responsibility of the Treasurer's Office. What we do is we perform a series of tests to determine whether or not a stakeholder in the financial statements can rely on the numbers. We were able to come to our conclusion that we can provide an unmodified opinion. In other words, they're a clean financial statement package. During the test of controls, we don't do a full internal control audit, but we're exposed to your internal controls. So some items could come to our attention that warrant a finding, which would be a deficiency that warrants the attention of this group and the board as a whole. Or if that finding could potentially cause a material misstatement, that would be a material weakness. We had no such items in this year's audit. There were no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses, so a clean audit on those side of things. We also perform what's referred to as a single audit under the Uniform Guidance Act. What that is an audit of your federal programs, your award money. This year we tested 5 different programs, each of which we had no federal award findings. So again, a clean bill of health on that one as well. We'll issue 2 letters, or we did issue 2 letters, an auditor communication letter, which summarizes some communications that we had verbally with your audit committee, but we put them in a formalized form for your reading pleasure. We also issue a management letter, which contains some observations and best practices, as well as some new reporting requirements that are on the horizon that we'll work with the Treasurer's Office to implement those. We'll issue 2 little minor reports. One is the Department of Transportation report. That's for your state aid as it relates to the Transportation Department, your Matricelli aid, your CHIPS money, and we tested through that tested the CHIPS program, and we had no items of finding in that one as well. The final one is a new report that kind of came up over the last couple of years, and that's your passenger facility charges report, and that's within the airport, the Watertown International Airport, and we performed those procedures and, again, had no findings there. So all in all, a very clean audit and a very helpful group that we were able to work with. We'll quickly look at a couple of the financial items from the year. As I said, we went through at length with this, and it shouldn't be anything new. I know your treasurer keeps you pretty up to speed, but they are the final audited numbers, so I wanted to just kind of give our third-party perspective. The first chart here is a 5-year trend. As you can see, some ups and some downs, but when you balance it out, it looks to be about the average comes out to be about the same. In other words, your revenues are equaling your expenditures, which is the ultimate goal of a government, is to have those as close to 1 as possible, the revenues divided by the expenditures. When you look at the past year, 2018, the plan through the budget was to use about $7 million of fund balance through the budget process. Within that budget, there's some budgeted items that you kind of budget for that worst case scenario, which would be your public service programs throughout your economic assistance and opportunity lines, as well as your health insurance benefits. You kind of have to budget for that worst potential cost of the health insurance. Both those items actually did fall under budget. Economic assistance were about $5 million less than the worst case scenario or the budgeted amount. And the employee benefits ended up the year about $4 million under budget. So a $9 million favorable variance on that side of things. On the revenue side of things, really the tale of the year is your sales tax came over budget by about $5.2 million. So the combination of the sales tax coming up by $5 million and expenditures being under budget by about $9 million was about a $14 million swing and equated to a $6,784,000 increase to fund balance in the past year. When you look at revenues from year to year, your revenues increased 3.8% from last year. That's all combined with basically two different items. Your real property tax increased by close to $1.9 million, while your sales tax increased from 2017 by $3.4 million. On the expenditure side of things, expenditures increased $1.9 million, but it's important to note that 1.8 of that 1.9 was a redistribution of that sales tax increase to local municipalities. So when you wipe that out of the equation, your expenditures actually only increased by about $100,000 from 17 to 18. It's a pretty remarkable task with the rising costs with benefits and salaries. When we break it down a little bit further, you can see the kind of the main three drivers of your revenue side of things are those top three items, which is your non-property taxes comprised of $79.6 million, your real property taxes of about $59.4, and then your state and federal aid, which levels off to about $40 million every year. And that pretty much supports all your economic assistance and opportunity, as well as your public health expenditures. When you look at the non-property tax, that's really the biggest driver of your increase in revenues over the last 5 years. It actually increased almost 10% from 2014 and 5% just in the last year. On the expense side of things, I mentioned that the economic assistance and opportunity kind of follows your state and federal aid. That's been pretty level, so you expect the economic assistance and opportunity as well as public health to be pretty level, which it has been over the last 4 years. On the gray portion there, that's your general government support. That increased by close to $1.8 million from one year to the next, but if you recall, that almost dollar for dollar is that distribution of sales tax. So that's kind of the cost of running the government has been level from 17 to 18. All the other items within there are pretty level from 17 to 18. Public safety did have an uptick from 16 to 17 due to some new mandates. However, from 17 to 18, it's since balanced off. So really a pretty safe year through the year. And as I said, fund balance did increase by $6 million, and ending fund balance totals, $40,068,000, of which 17.1 is considered to be unassigned and 15.9 is considered to be assigned. And the reason that those items are important is because those are the items that factor into your fund balance policy calculation. And the way that the fund balance policy calculation is interpreted with the Treasurer's Office is based on your actual expenditures of the year, which equates to close to $200 million, but we remove the amount for sales taxes distributed to get your adjusted expenditures of $152 million, Within the fund balances I just read off, with the unassigned of about 17.1 and the assigned of 16 million, within that item is items that are included in the 19 budget, whether it be a use of fund balance within in the budget process or encumbrances that are rolled forward from the past year. Those get removed from the calculation per the policy. So your adjusted available fund balance is 26 million, which puts you at a fund balance ratio of 17%, which is just slightly above the 16.7% that's required by your policy, or is ideal within your policy, which then has a range from about 7% to 27%. So at the end of the year, a pretty favorable year as far as getting back into that fund balance policy, and certainly a very clean audit and not really any significant recommendations. We did talk through some housekeeping items, some minor things with the audit committee, and certainly already started taking action with the Treasurer's Office on remedying those. With that, my contact information as well as the senior manager that was assigned to the job are up there. We're certainly available through the year for any questions, and if you had any questions right now, I'd be happy to address those as well. Thanks. Thanks, Bob.
At this time, is there anybody for the privilege of the floor? None. July minutes, any corrections, additions, deletions? If not, passes. Are you ready for resolutions?
We'll start with the second resolution this evening. Okay, the first resolution. Appointing Director of Real Property Tax Services.
Motion, please. Mr. Nabolani. Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Congratulations. Almost. Authorizing agreement with the New York State Office of Indigent Legal Services.
Motion, please. Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Mr. Drake. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Third resolution is authorizing agreement with New York State Office for Indigent Legal Services, in this case distribution number 9.
Motion, please. Scantwell. Mrs. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. General Services.
Authorizing New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Recycling Equipment Grant and amending 2019 county budget in relation thereto.
Is there a motion? Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Drake, discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Amending the 2019 county budget and capital plan to recognize 2018 revenue from passenger facility charges at the Watertown International Airport.
Motion, please. Mr. Cantwell, Mr. Drake. Discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation, McFarland Johnson, and amending the 2000 county budget and capital plan in relation thereto.
Motion, please. Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Drake. Discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing agreement with McFarland Johnson in relation to the Watertown International Airport supplemental environmental assessment for one-way protection zone land and amending the 2019 county budget and capital plan in relation thereto.
Motion. Mr. Cantwell. Mr. Hamilton. Discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing agreement amending 2019 county budget in relation to the fiscal year 2016 State Homeland Security Program grant.
Motion, please. Mr. Drake, Mr. Napolitano. Discussion? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. These are all the resolutions, right?
Correct.
There are a couple items in the revenue and expenditure spreadsheet, monthly department reports from the county clerk, and health benefits report. We need to move into executive session. We have a couple items to discuss, so I need a motion to move into executive session. Mrs. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Navalonic, discussion on that motion?
Simply to point out, in regards to labor negotiations, as an update, and the request of a particular employment situation for a potential employee.
All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. We'll move into executive session.